Yo, what's going on? It's the NOC, the Nerds of Color, and we are back with another ShoPowSho. It's your boy Kuya P, the Babinka boy, the Adore Bro, the leader of the Holla Holla homies in the center gang, aka Patrick Michael Strange, and I'm here to rock ShoPowSho with the Dinaguan Destroyers, the Sinigang Supremes, Kataphorric, and Viva Valentina. What's up, ladies?
What up? Yeah.
How y'all doing today? Ready for another amazing one?
Always. Hot. I am hot. Ready for another one.
Yes. And this is going to be a hot one because we're actually going to really promote too as well, because our guests, as of the release of this episode tomorrow, which is September 7th, have an amazing book that was adapted from their play called Through the Bamboo. We're going to learn a lot more about it. Shout out to Carolyn Faye, who was last week's episode. You know, the Lola from Blue's Clues. She brought this amazing couple to our attention. So I want to give her a shout out. Thank you, Carolyn. Mahakita salamat for bringing us to attention. I can't wait to learn more. As I dove and learned a little bit more about our guest tonight, I am now so enthralled. I can't wait to learn more. So let's just bring them in and get the whole story, learn more about Through the Bamboo and everything they're all about. I'm super excited to have them on. Let's bring them in. Andrea Mapili and Byron Abalos. I hope I didn't mess up the names, but you see them on the screen. Maybe they can correct me.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks so much for having us, y'all.
Welcome. So is it Andrea Mapili?
Oh, that's so Andrea. No, it's
Andrea.
It's Andrea.
Andrea Mapili and Byron Abalos.
Yeah, that's
Abalos.
pretty good. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay, all right. We got to get it right. Got to get your names right. And Through the Bamboo, y'all, dropping tomorrow. How excited are y'all for this to come out to the world? There it is.
It is, y'all.
That. We just wanna highlight that because
that's dope. I can't wait to get my copy and check it out and enjoy. And yeah, so it's coming out tomorrow. What do you want in the world? Before we dive more into your stories, I want to do a little bit of book promo right now for those that are tuning in that maybe already know and they just want to get a little bit more info about this since it's dropping. What is Through the Bamboo about? How did that come together? I know it was a play and then you kind of bringing this out. What kind of we want to quick touch upon on that for Through the Bamboo?
Sure. I mean, quick synopsis. Through the Bamboo is about a Filipino kid that's growing up in North America, 12 years old, loses her Lola right away. And it's all of a sudden she hears a book calling to her. And magically, kind of like Alice in Wonderland, she gets whisked away into a magical land that we have called Uwi. And for everybody that doesn't know, Uwi means home. And so we whisk her away to the land of Uwi that we have filled with Filipino folklore, folk characters, and mythological creatures. We've created this entire world that basically she's trying to find her Lola and bring her home. It's a story about grieving. It's a story about learning how to grieve as a kid. It's a story about families and how to talk about grief and about death. And it's a story really about the importance of storytelling.
Yeah. And it's important to say it is actually still in this form. It is a play.
Yeah.
So if you go through it, you know, you can actually like read through like the different characters, and so this is like the version that we put on in 2019 had its world premiere here in Toronto at the Toronto Toronto Fringe Festival, and it was a success of the festival, and we were lucky to get approached by some publishers who said, "Hey, we love the story and we wanna publish it," and we were like, "Sure."
Oh, dope! I love it. Yeah. I love it. And that's how you all came across Carolyn. She played the Lola.
Carolyn is like the every Lola, the every person's Lola.
Right.
That is so true.
But like on stage, on camera, like if you need a Filipino Lola, she's there.
You found one. You found one. Yeah, she was our Lola. She was our, central figure in the play is Philly and her relationship with her Lola. Philly is the 12-year-old. And so, she was our Lola. She came in rocking it, she really, really, she's quintessential Lola. And she made sure that, like Philly, who was actually played by.
She was in high school.
Yeah, she was like her last year of high school.
And it was her first kind of like semi-professional, professional theater thing.
Yeah, she really made it feel like a family.
Yeah, it was great. What was really great is like for a play, it's a kind of a big cast for an independent kind of show.
Yeah.
It had like 8 people in it, different ages. So we had some like, Carolyn, and then we had someone in high school, and then like ages in between. We really wanted to showcase Filipino stories and Filipino talent. So like our director, Nina Lee Aquino, is a well-known director here in Canada. She directed it too. We had lots of Filipinos on the creative team, and it was just such a unique experience to come together and rehearse in community. I'm used to being, we're used to being like we're the only Filipinos here, right, in the room, and feeling like we got to represent. But to be in a context where we had like similar cultural references, similar experiences, and we had a cultural shorthand. It was just so much fun. We would literally leave rehearsals every day, like sore from smiling and laughing so much. And it was magic. It was a magical experience for us. And we're so happy that it gets to live on in this way, right? Especially with, a medium like theater, it can be so transient. Like the show opens and it closed, and whoever saw it, and that's it sometimes. But now, this is something that's going to be in libraries. It's something that people are going to study in universities and look at the types of stories we're telling and why, how it reflects our time and where we are in this particular moment.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I loved your casting note where it was, prioritize Filipinx actors. If that's not possible, then Asian actors. If that's not possible, then POC. And I just love that, like, theater is accessible for everyone, but this is a story that is for, a certain group. And so they should have dibs. They have dibs on telling the story.
Yeah. So much so much in like Western canon of arts is like the default is kind of a white character. It's a white lens, typically a male white lens, right? Yes. So we specifically wanted to set up we also have like, this is like majority women characters, right? From like Lola to the young girl, to the mom, to a bunch of the powerful to the sisters, the evil sisters,
and the duende helpers, and they're all women. Yeah. So we really wanted to write something that we wanted to cast people and lift up our community as well. That's one of the big reasons we wrote this at the beginning. We wanted to write it for our nieces and nephews to see themselves on stage, and then for our community of talented artists to see themselves on stage together.
Oh, hell yeah.
We got a great comment during one of the development readings along our path. And someone after the reading said, like, I always wish growing up I would read things like Chronicles of Narnia, stories like that, Lord of the Rings. And I always wish that, my culture I grew up with stories of my culture like this as well, like we're the heroes and it's grand and epic. So we set out to really showcase that and say, that we do have these stories and they're big and they're important and they're fun and they're filled with magic and wonderful creatures and characters. And we just wanted to like celebrate that as much as we could.
Yes. I'm all in. Like, I need to give this all my money. I'm like wishing like I could have traveled to Canada at the time you're putting this on. I'd love to see this play. Like, now maybe with this being in a book form, like we can get more, options on the table. Like, hey, we just had this amazing Trece animated series on Netflix. What up, y'all? Through the Bamboo. Come on, let's do this. Like, maybe is that something you'd like to see maybe down the road as well happen, or
absolutely? Absolutely. If anybody wants to produce this giant play, please reach out. We would love to see this where there's more Filipino people. There's Filipino people across the world, and I think because it's a story of a person within the diaspora going back to a place that is home, but is a home that is mixed with, or that is created by the stories that this person has heard. It's not a Filipino story. It's a Filipinx diasporic story. I think that's very key in differentiating, because we grew up mostly hearing about the Philippines, and not experiencing the Philippines. So this story is from that perspective. It's creating this imaginary world that is inhabited by the stories that we grew up with, but it's not the Philippines.
No, I love that. Yeah.
other platforms as well. Like we're open to that as well. Like there have been some talks about like animated version. There have been talks about maybe other lives of this. So we hope it might not be the end of the line, and hopefully now that it's in print, we can get in the hands of a lot more people and spread the word.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna do my part. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kat.
Just because you mentioned it, one of the things that I wanted to ask you after looking over the play was, sometimes, we're mestiza, so we're mixed kids, so we definitely feel that Filipino diaspora very, very, very uniquely, right? Mixed kid problems. But one of the questions or the challenges I think that a lot of us come across as creatives is how Filipino, are you Filipino enough to tell a Filipino story? And it's been very interesting to talk to a lot of Filipinos across, different areas from different communities, people born and raised in the Philippines, people who have very little connection with that. And so I think that imposter syndrome is kind of a universal thing, but how does that translate for you writing this particular work?
A great question. I'll start. I'll give it a go.
Please.
Okay. I was born in the Philippines, but was raised in Canada. And the original inspiration for this play was a book called Manik Buangsi. And this book was a folk tale from the Sama Islands. And so this is a Muslim folk tale, a Filipino Muslim folk tale. And we are not Filipino Muslims. So I got this book when I was like 2 years old, and I sort of grown up with this as one of the myths. And at the beginning of the play, or the first iteration of it, we really based it off of this particular story, this particular myth. And then we had to grapple with the fact that, like, are we appropriating, right? Like appropriation is something that all of us in the diaspora need to consider when creating, right? Like, whose voice are we misrepresenting, and whose voice are we kind of taking on as our own? So I think for me, there was like a bunch of searching, right? Like internal searching. What is my voice? What do I know? What am I interested in? What do I, how can I research more? How can I learn more so that I can properly take on a voice of maybe someone who is not me?
And honor that.
And honor that voice. And so I think I mean, for me, it's like, do your research, know more. The more you know, and the more you know, the more you'll be able to honor rather than just kind of put out there.
Yeah, there was a very specific time, kind of late in the process too, for like, we were writing this play for maybe like 7 years. Like, it was a long labor of love that, for a lot of our marriage working on this to get it to where we wanted it to be. And for most of that time, the characters of the myth were actually in. It was Manik Buangsi and Tuan Put Lee, and that's what we call them. And as we got closer to production, and asking those questions about like whose voice and whose tale, who are we to tell this, we made a conscious decision to change those names to names that were similar to some other folktale names, because for us this is clearly a tale that's inspired by Philippine folklore and history, and it's as Andrea said earlier, it's very much like the intersection. This story is the result of our intersections as people who grew up in North America, as Filipinx people in North America. Hearing those stories, like Andrea said, like, they're a part of us, they're passed down. We can kind of like feel it through our families and through our lineage, but it's not our direct experience. So how do we honor that? So, that's why I think for me too, it was important to have the character of Philly, who's kind of a North American born Filipina, to have her also be the one, kind of like us, kind of exploring and discovering these characters as creators as well. And it was so fun to dive into a lot of mythology and folklore that like we hadn't known about or were unfamiliar with. And so we hope this play, when other Filipinos across Canada, across the US see it, they they connect with that part of it, of that part that's searching for roots, for home, for belonging, and that they feel pride in seeing their culture on stage in a way, or in a story in a way that perhaps they might not have ever seen it before.
Awesome.
Oh, incredible. So I'm the resident note taker. I love that was a thought process for you guys. It was a conversation that was had. Because we had a previous guest back in January, y'all. This was a long time ago. Ryan Riddle had said that in regards to inauthentic and authentic Filipino experiences and things like that, that when you're experiencing these stories and when you're deciding to tell these stories, the main thing to ask yourself is, am I telling a story or am I exploiting a story? And I think with any kind of story, that, especially a cultural one, it's a very important question to ask. And I think you guys did it great, like in telling the story and not exploiting it, where it's like you did draw inspiration, but then having it be that from the perspective of the diaspora, from our perspective. And I think that was just a very clever way to go about it. And then good on y'all for doing your research and for having, again, that conscious thought process of working through it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thinking about it, I think us in the diaspora, there's that question comes up a lot. Like, am I Filipino enough? And I think the thing is, we are Filipino. Like, we are Filipino, right? So I think for us where we are now, what the opportunity is for us is to expand what that Filipino, Filipina, Filipinx means, right? In other contexts. So there's millions of people on the islands back home continuing that particular way, many particular ways of being Filipino, right? And we're an extension of that in a diaspora, in a different context. Now, expanding what that means in a new way, right? Like, our daughter's experience of what it's going to be Filipina, Filipinx is going to be different than ours, and ours was different than our parents, and so on. So, it's exciting to be a part of this evolution and this growth, and to feel like very much that we are a part of a chain and the lineage. We came up with I think we should share the dedication that we wrote, because it feels like that resonates with me. Would you mind pulling that up?
Not at all.
Yes.
Not rehearse. Yeah. Yeah, please.
Okay. For Mayari, that's our daughter's name. For Mayari.
Oh, I'm going to cry. I feel like I'm going to cry.
For Mayari, our moon goddess, for our ancestors, for our descendants, for every Filipinx child, our stories connect us. That's this dedication of this story, of this play.
Beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, and we're all searching for connection. And I mean, as storytellers, the best is not articulate enough. It's not accurate. It's a really, I think, easy way to connect. And so in this world where we're like really searching for connecting to community, connecting inwardly, connecting outwardly to other people like us, stories are our avenue. And I think they're a really accessible one.
Yeah, it's amazing that we can be in different places, and yet, we're talking to you for the first time, and you're all like, yes, yes, right?
We share that.
Yeah, there's a shared experience. There's something that we all kind of feel that is similar, and part of it is a human experience, and part of it is a very specific diasporic experience to us being Filipinos.
Hell yeah. I love it. All right. Let's get this moving. Let's share more stories. Let's share your stories for everybody. Through the Bamboo drops tomorrow, September 7th. Make sure you copy your copy. I know I am. I can't wait to dive in. I'm just, here's all my money. I need the anime. I need the feature film. I need the TV series. Let's make this happen. with Andrea and Byron because this is amazing. I love it. I'm all for it. I can't wait. So let's kick us off. What we do here at ShoPowSho is tell stories and celebrate each other. Let me throw it to Tina with our first question out the gate.
Yes. So, Andrea, you touched on this, but we always like to know, where are you from? Like, where are you really from? Where are your parents from?
Cool. So we are here currently in Toronto in Canada. And I was born in the Philippines in Quezon City. I moved here when I was 4. Yeah, but my parents were actually also born in Quezon City, both of them. And, you know, ancestor lineage going back, we're talking like Pila Laguna, we're talking on my mom's side, Pila Laguna, and her mother is actually Canadian. So her mother was born and raised in close to Montreal, in Trois-Rivières in Quebec. And then on my dad's side, my dad's parents are one from Pila Laguna and the other one from La Union, which is in the Ilocos region.
And for me, my dad is from Pangasinan, from a small fishing town called San Fabian. And my mom is from Quezon City. Yeah.
Hey, that's where my mom came from.
My parents, they are currently in Las Vegas, live in the But my mom is actually literally in the other room right now, in case the baby wakes up.
Very important, yeah. So that's awesome. What we also like to do as a bridge with that question, if you've seen prior episodes of ShoPowSho, is we want to know about, before we dig in more to you, is I like to say we're the manifestations of their hopes and dreams and their aspirations. Do you know either of you guys, your parents or other ancestors' love stories that you can share about them before we dig more into you guys? Any special nugget you can tell us?
I'll go first because Andrew's got a big one. My parents met here in Toronto. They had both moved here. It's the thing where, you know, someone from the family immigrates and then or emigrates, and then other people follow. For my Lola on my mom's side, this was not the preferred destination. They were trying to get to LA where her brother was, but they had to kind of come in through this way, and then they kind of like stopped, and her brother was like, "Hey, Canada's good. Like maybe just stay in Canada." And it's so funny for me because since I was born and raised in Toronto, and so it took a while for me to realize growing up that like, oh, like my family and my people are from somewhere else. Like because I just completely grew up in this one context, right? So it was really as I kind of got older, particularly like even to high school and into university and even like post-university as artists, that, you know, I feel like I'm really kind of learning more about my roots and history and family, and that's being more important. But yeah, my parents met here at a party with friends. You know, they have like young single friends. They go to a joint friends party, they meet, and then they go on a few dates, and then they have 3 kids.
My turn. My parents met. They were high school sweethearts in the Philippines, in Quezon City, and got married and had my brother and I there. And then we moved here when I was 4. Another love story, I think, going back in the lineage, is my mother's parents. So she's half Canadian and half Filipino, and so, I mean, that really impacted my immigration story. Like that's, you know, we were just born and we could be citizens of Canada. So it's like a completely different experience how we moved here. But their experience and how they got together, my grandparents, they were classical pianists. So they were both artists who were, my grandfather was studied in Paris. And then my grandmother, she played in Carnegie Hall. Like she was like a pianist. They were pianists. And then they met in San Francisco. They were both doing a summer residency in San Francisco, learning under the same person. And they met and they fell in love. But listen, racism was like a big thing back then and still is now. But back then it was like right after World War II. And they were like, who is this Asian man? Who is this Asian man trying to date my daughter? So they had this love affair where they the intention was for my grandfather and grandmother to live in the States. Like he wanted to live there with her and get married, and they had this, but he had to go back to the Philippines for lots of reasons. And so they had like a letter writing love affair. This is the romantic love story that I grew up hearing. So I was like, oh, this is like, it's just a thing. Like, that's just how all romance happens. They would write and be like, I'll meet you, darling, at the top of the Empire State Building at this time and this date. And I'll be wearing this, and and all of their letters are like, darling, heart, love of my life. Like just beautiful, just so in love. And then they ended up, I mean, there were letters pleading with my grandmother's father to let them marry. Right. And
oh my God.
Until my grandmother's father passed away. And then my grandmother sailed back to the Philippines to meet and be and live with my grandfather in the Philippines. My grandfather had a calling to become an ethnomusicologist, so the study of ethnic music. And he dedicated his life to the study of the indigenous music in the Philippines. And he's one of the people who helped record and maintain a library of indigenous music from the Philippines. So his work and his legacy, it lives on at the University of the Philippines in Quezon City, where they actually recently just opened up a theater in his honor, in his name, and his library with all of the recordings from their honeymoon. They went on a recording trip, and they went to like different tribes to record their music so that it would remain, and it would actually be studied and talked about and learned by all of the Filipino people. You know, it was like one of those really incredible love stories, and then an incredible calling. And so my grandmother moved there, and she, you know, left everything she knew. She left North America, and she lived in Soho. Like she left and she was like, that's it, I'm going to the Philippines. And then she wrote this one diary letter or entry, I guess, as she was sailing to the Philippines over 3 or 4 months, where she like contracted Hep C and almost died, and had to, she went through the Panama Canal. Like it was just a whole like incredible journey. And then she was having doubts, of course she's like, I haven't seen this man in a while, I don't know if I'm ever going to come back to North America. I don't know if I'm going to see my family again. Is this the right thing to do? And as she gets closer and closer to the Philippines and the weather starts getting warmer and warmer, she starts seeing like palm trees on little islands. And she starts, smelling the salt water that's like warm salt water, and starts smelling what the Philippine islands smelled like to her. And then she docks and she sees my grandfather, and they just start waving and talking to each other, like yelling in French, which was their like secret love language, because they both spoke French, and they were just mon chéri, like they just love, just yelling at each other, I'm here, and we're gonna be together. So that kind of ruined me.
Oh my God. I'm like,
that was the story that my mom would be like, let me tell you a story. I'd be like, yes. That was this, and that was real life. It was like better than any kind of romance that I've ever encountered, and it was real, so I think, there's one. There's a story.
Yeah, fun fact, those letters are literally right behind us right now.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
You guys need to frame them and then write a musical.
Yeah, I mean, look, why are you a writer with an origin story like that? How could you not be, honestly?
It's a little bit of like a little bit of like my Everest. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I gotta like work out to climb that, I don't know. But yes, it just means so much, it's like, it's a lot. But yeah, it's a beautiful love story, and it's beautiful. It's even made more beautiful because it's real. I've always, thought about love stories and romances. Interestingly enough, it's just like romance is really about longing, and then love is about like, how do you actually live with someone every day? And that's so that I've been grappling with this idea of romance versus love, and like what and lasting partnership, you know, like they had both. They had that long apartness and then that longing that then turned out to be an actual great love, that they lived their life with each other and were happy and loved each other that whole time. Like, I'm grappling with those questions of like romance and the idea of longing and how that exists now versus back then, and why we give also so much attention to longing versus like, how do you actually make you and your partner happy on a day-to-day? How like, what about love? What about like real love? I don't know. Anyway, so but I'll
not feel that.
Not another day.
Real talk from the married people. Like that's real talk.
I love love.
Yeah.
Love is my favorite thing in the world. So I want romance is longing like on a t-shirt. that's a merch idea. If you don't do it, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna write it on a Sharpie on a t-shirt. I think that's beautiful. That's that. Oh, the longing. Yes, that's that heart wrenching, tear it out of your chest, howling at the moon. Love, romance. Oh, I'm all about it. Thank you. Oh, I'm sweating. I'm hot.
All right, so 2 takeaways from that. We definitely need that story as a next project. I know that's your Everest, but we'd love for you to climb Everest and give us that. We need that. I definitely want to hear it. And
In
2,
my heart, it's a musical.
yeah, in any
Piano.
fashion.
They fall in love over piano, and then it ends on like indigenous tribal instruments. Oh, that's an act finale right there.
Down. I'm writing these ideas down.
2, the reason why we kind of throw it to the past is because again, we're as you explained, the arts was in them, and now the arts is in you. It's like still carrying through with you, Andrea, and I don't know if I caught it with you, Byron, with your story, with your ancestry, but I'm sure they're very much the same. Am I missing that with you, Byron? Or did you carry on the arts with your family?
Yeah, the arts thing for me is like, I was a bit of a, I have like a great uncle that was like an actor in the Philippines. But for me, I had a very, it's not what I typically hear in terms of some experiences of growing up. Like, I started acting professionally when I was 10 years old. So, and I'm almost 40. So like 30 years I've been acting professionally. My parents, I remember being 9 years old. My school went to watch this musical that was this educational, theater company that was young people performing. And I remember being in like an auditorium of like 1,000 kids and being moved and going like, oh my gosh, I want to do this. I want to be able to make people feel this way. So that's the moment I fell in love with like acting and theater. And then I told my parents, I was like, hey, next year I want to audition to be in this company. So I did, and I came from a very lovely primary school, elementary school, that had some great teachers, and they helped me prepare my audition. My mom helped me. I did like, for the one who loves love, my audition piece was like, how do I love thee? Let me count the ways. And I was like a 9-year-old saying it. I didn't know.
Yes.
Adorable.
But so I joined that company. I was with them for like 4 years. They also had a talent agency saying, hey, we also represent for film, television, commercial stuff. Are you interested in that too? We said, yeah. And I've been kind of acting ever since. And my parents, they were the ones that would pick me up from school and drive me to rehearsal. That was like half hour away, and then drive back to where we lived. And they were just always so supportive. And I hope I don't cry right now. Because I know next year too. But yeah. So I
that's great.
They've always been supportive. So I when it came time to go to university, I studied theater acting. I got a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Theater Acting at a university here in Toronto.
It helped that he was really smart and he got a full ride to theater school.
Oh, look out now. Watch out.
Yeah. It helped. His parents were like, okay, yeah, that's
I also remember
that's good.
I also remember telling my mom, I was like, I was kind of between acting or I'm interested in international development. And here's this wonderful program that will send me to Africa to do like a placement there. And she was like, go into acting. I was just so worried. I don't know.
That sounds like a Filipino mother. Oh, no.
Yeah. So you
Figure and act.
So would you say they were supportive because you kept your grades up too? Because you were such a good student? Because, you lucked out. You have the supportive parents. Because sometimes, the arts ain't always for us, which I'm sure you've heard from previous shows. Arts are okay as a hobby, but not as a gig, as a full-time job. So because you were good with both sides, they're like, okay, he's good with his studies, but we will support him as long as he keeps his studies up. Was it kind of that?
I think it was like, I think they saw that I loved it.
That's beautiful.
He loved it and he enjoys it and he's good at it. I think, I think I'm like, okay. I'm not exceptional at anything. I think I'm okay at some stuff. But thank you. But, still work in progress, fellow artists, we want to, improve and learn and get better in our craft for sure. But yeah, it's, I love being an artist. I can't imagine being in another profession, another job. I love acting. I love creating, writing, both on my own and in teams. Like I love working with Andrea and the amazing, cool stuff we've been able to do together, different kinds of projects. Yeah. So I'm very lucky, and I know that that's not the typical narrative that you hear from like second gen kids. Is that like, my parents were really supportive of everything I wanted to do, even if it was totally unfamiliar with them. And I think surely there's still the worry of like, are you okay? Like financially. Like my dad was over. We had a bonding time, and that was one of his questions. Like, how are you doing financially? So they want to make sure that you're like taking care of. And I think that's where that comes from. Yeah. That's where it comes from. We want you to be a nurse. We want you to be, all these, because they're stable and you'll be okay and I don't have to worry about you. So it's all out of love. It's all out of, and I
they want you to be successful.
Yeah, they want you to be successful and safe and comfortable. Safe and comfortable. Yeah. Which is like, hey, we're parents. I'd love those things for our daughter too. But also, because we're artists, we're like, but follow your dreams. Can you do both? I don't know.
We're trying right now. We're not sure.
We're in this experiment too, right?
Yeah.
As like artists who have a kid, right? It's like it's a new world.
It's a new game, artists with kid. Yeah.
It changes things a little bit.
Yeah.
Definitely gives you a different kind of motivation. I know that for myself. Yeah. So Shu, back on your let's toss the question over to you, Andrea. What can you tell us about growing up as well, and what were you into?
Totally. I was a kid who was like, I'm going to take the hardest subjects in school because I grew up with a story of like people are successful when they're the best at what they do. So, and they do the hardest thing. Like it was, my grandfather's, it's a lot to grow up with someone who has like a very big shadow and
a theater named after him.
Yeah, like there's a lot. I mean, yeah, it's a lot. So I grew up thinking that I should just do the hardest thing I could think of because I didn't know. So I would try to take the hardest courses I could think of. And I never thought about what I liked ever. But I remember in school, and this is how different my parents were than I think a lot of other Filipino parents, because I went home very proud. And this is like I think I was in my like second last year of high school. And I went to my mom and dad and I went, Mom, I'm very excited to tell you that I've decided what I want to be. I'm going to be a doctor. And I was fully expecting her to go like, well done. That's exactly what we wanted you to be. But instead, my mom goes, huh. And I was like, what? She just went, huh. And I went, what do you mean, huh? And she goes, oh, if you want to be a doctor, great. But I just never thought you'd be a doctor. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean, huh? What do you mean? And then she was like, oh, well, I don't know. I thought you would, be what did she say? Oh, I thought you would want to be like a foreign diplomat. I was like, what? She's like, I just thought you'd want to be involved with like changing the world somehow. I was like, wow, that's really different. And I think that was like a wake up call for me because I was like, oh, why do I want to be a doctor? I was like, well, I don't know, but my mom said not to do it, so I'm going to do it. So I actually enrolled in university and I was in like bio. That's what I was doing. I was pre-med. And in my my second last year of university, my grandfather passed away. This is my mother's father. And we went to the Philippines to bury him and pay our respects. And I met for the first time a lot of his colleagues, and we were in his house and all of his colleagues were around, and they were all just speaking about what they do, about what they did, about their relationship with my grandfather. And they all spoke with so much passion about what they did. I mean, these were all like artists and philosophers and great thinkers, you know, these really interesting people that had lived really incredible lives that I had, you know, no idea existed, right? Like I really, in my narrow view of where I'd grown up, I grew up in the suburbs of Toronto in Canada, you know, like it was very sheltered, but these like magical stories from the homeland, you know, about my family, but I'd really not experienced much of the world. And so meeting these people in this like filled with so much, not just passion about what they did, but like so much interest and inquiry into the world itself and so much wonder. I was so struck that I completely, from that experience, came back home and I was like, I need to figure out what it is that I actually want to do with my life, because wanting to be a doctor was only because I thought of success in terms of like, oh, do something noble that is secure, it gives you money. So the only thing I could think of when I was in high school was a doctor. That was the only thing I could think of that fulfilled those things. And then all of a sudden, like I had this like, but what are you passionate about? I was like, oh no, I don't know. And so I left and I went and I traveled and I traveled to South Africa and I lived there for 2 years. And I traveled around and I actually even started doing some like schooling there, still within, you know, the medical field. I was in computational biology for like half a second, biochemistry type deal. And I don't know if you guys ever seen like CSI, but you take like genetic material in like a pipette and then you like put it into another thing and it's like genetic material. So it's like,
oh yes, science stuff.
Yeah, like super, like I was actually doing this stuff, you know, in school, and you're moving literally like 10 microliters, which is like invisible to the human eye, to another thing. And so you don't know if you've moved it. Like you can't just be like, oh, that one looks like there's more than this one. So I remember being in one of my classes and I had a tray of like little test tubes. Those are called pipettes, little test tubes. And I think there was like 100 and I had to move genetic material from these like 100 to another 100. Like that was the thing, the task. And I remember doing it, you know, focus, you're like, okay. And then I remember just going like this. And then just looking at my classmates and going like, I wonder what they're thinking right now. I wonder how they got here. What's their story? And then I'd be like, oh no, what did I do? And then I messed up like all my labs. I was a horrible scientist. And I realized that, like I realized what I was actually passionate about and was the stories behind science. It was like how people do and why people do what they do. And so the inner workings of people really, really, not on a DNA level, but the inner workings of people and that like the reasons why they do things, that really fascinated me. And that really propelled me in a different direction once I came back. And it found me in the arts and, you know, very similar to the sciences, the arts also ask a question and they follow a process to answer that question or to explore the question. It's very similar to science. It's just a different way, but it's a similar process. And I found that a lot of my science training was actually really applicable to the arts. And I fell in love with story and I fell in love with writing about why people do what they do. So.
I dig it. All right. I want to pause like kind of there where we're at with all of that. Since we're very proud Filipinos and this is the ShoPowSho, growing up in Canada, knowing you're Filipino, how was that learning about yourself and your culture? Was that around you constantly? Andrea, I think you said you knew from your from your ancestors and just of the grandparents, I think, and all that was, so that was already prevalent. But like, did you have a lot of family around you? How was that Filipino upbringing into just growing up for both of you guys and learning about yourself and your culture, experiencing any racism, or pride or self-hate? Because we've experienced that and we've had that kind of come up on the show. How was that for you, learning and being a proud Filipino? Were you a proud Filipino growing up?
I think that because I associated being Filipino with my family back home and these stories about, the indigenous music. And I realized that for me, being Filipino was about like a pride of not a nation, but of all these different peoples, all kind of within a very, within close proximity to each other. Like I was always fascinated by it and interested in all of the differences in all of the peoples there. And I think like that was what I associated with being Filipino, was this like community of peoples that lived in a really different way than I did. And then the community of like titas and cousins that I had here, and that was like here, and the food that we ate and the language that we spoke and that I heard, and the like everybody played basketball. I didn't grow up playing basketball, but like all the other Filipino kids played basketball. And I was like, oh, right. Like the Filipino Basketball Association in Mississauga. Like, oh, that makes sense. And cultura, like all of the community, we were surrounded by titas and titos that were not our actual blood, but they were.
Exactly.
And I had, 100 million cousins, just like every other Filipino person. And I think we call sort of like the suburbs of Toronto, it's called like the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, including Toronto. And it was like a certain age in high school, like every Filipino person knew every other Filipino person. So like you had this like vast network of people that you knew and that you would see sometimes, but you would always know, you would know through this person, through that person, that person. And that was what it meant to be Filipino. It was like finding community within a place that really didn't feel like they totally understood me, So it was like finding community in a place that didn't totally understand, didn't totally get me. But of course, growing up Filipino also meant like feeling, for me, not quite, because of the way that I grew up with this idea of indigeneity in the Philippines, and that like most people didn't have that experience. Like most people didn't have my grandfather, right? So I oftentimes grappled with the people's shame around being Filipino that I never experienced. I didn't experience it in the same way. Right. So I didn't understand where it was coming from. Like I didn't understand what that shame was. And I also understood that there was like this hierarchy within the Filipino community. And it was like all of the different like shades of color within the Filipino community. And there was a hierarchy there. We recently did this piece about the model minority myth. And one of the sort of issues that I grappled with really early on, because I'm 3/4 Filipino and 1/4 French or Canadian. And people would often like look at me and go, well, you're not half something, like they didn't know where to place me. Like I'm in a
where are you from?
Yeah, where are you from? Like you're Filipino, but you're not Filipino. And so I would still get those kinds of questions. Also, I'm like very dark for being a mixed person, I guess. So there was like always this tension within the Filipino community, and this is not like with from outside of the Filipino community here. It was within that. It was like, you're so you look so exotic and beautiful. Your nose, look at your nose. It's not Filipino at all, but you're so dark. And it was always that. So I was always like, what? I don't understand what this is. And there was a lot of tension within me because I internalized that hierarchy and that idea that whiteness was better, and I was only a little bit white. And so then the people who were half were like somehow a little bit better than me. And I learned that early on. So I wasn't mixed enough to be mixed, but I wasn't Filipino enough to be Filipino. And so I lived in this like weird gray area where it was like literally just me. Like there was no other like 3/4 mixed people. And so I certainly felt like an outsider within the Filipino community. And then once you like go out into the world and are like, I'm a person, I'm a woman of color, then it's just like, bah! And so then it's just like that. And then it's feeling all of the white supremacy in action, really, as I kept growing up. And so finding solace and peace within myself really started once I really dove into the arts and started asking myself all of the sort of identity questions. You know, who am I, and what does it mean to be Filipino here? What does it mean to be Filipinx Canadian? What does it mean to be a woman of like, and what does it mean to be like 3/4 and 1/4? Like, what does all that mean? And I think I had a tough time, but I certainly didn't have a tough time like other people did. I could see my own privilege. I could certainly see my own privilege within the community.
Yeah, I think for me, there's a lot of Filipinos in this area of the world. So I think we were very lucky to have, like, throughout primary school, secondary school, there were always like, I always had classmates until I got to university, because then I was in a theater program, and theater is historically white or traditionally excluding of BIPOC people because we honor a certain canon like Shakespeare, and we see that as the bar. So I was the only like visible minority in my class for a big part of my theater training, and that was pretty messed up because they were trying me to do a British accent, a received pronunciation, when what would probably have served me better was to like learn to do a better Tagalog accent, Filipino accent, because that's actually what I'm getting calls for now, and now feeling like I don't know if I do that well enough. And like Andrew said, I think it was definitely through the extended family networks, right? The friends, the communities, the people who gather. For me, like my family grew up Catholic, so in churches, that kind of environment. And yeah, having a lot of festivals like, Philippine Independence Day. And I was definitely one of the players that Andrew was watching at the Filipino Basketball League. Because we actually go back, our story goes back till we actually first met when we were in primary school.
That's the part I want to get to next. So we're definitely going to get to that point. I'd love to know that story.
Excellent transition into that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think Andrea articulated her experience really well. For me, I kind of had a sense growing up that for me, I felt like being Filipino was cool. I felt like we thought of ourselves as the cool Asians, which is racist in itself in a way, because, again, model minority, and I'm separating us from the other Asian people for no reason. But that was kind of what I recall my experience being. Like, I also recall feeling like me and all of kind of my classmates that we were people, and perhaps this is a product of the colonialism and imperialism, that we were able to adapt to different groups. We could hang out with these people from this culture and then just easily switch and be with these people and be with these kinds of people. And we also live in a very diverse place. It's like one of the most diverse cities in the world. So like we grew up around like I went to like a Catholic school, but like we had all sorts of people there that weren't Catholic as well. So just having a bit of that exposure was like really cool, because there was other people asking similar questions about their culture with their culture, right? Like, so it was interesting to have that kind of common but different experience, and see that in many other people and groups. So like a lot of us were in the same boat as like people of color, right? So it was really basically in university where I really felt being different as Filipino and being an outsider and not enough, in a way, where they were trying to force me to be something that I wasn't, and that wasn't actually serving me or honoring who I am. And, it was trying to ignore who I am and what I bring. in search of in replacing that with a white default, which was weird.
Which was like your what you call like a neutral.
Yeah, they're like, it's neutral. I'm like, neutral for who? Right? Neutral
for a white British person.
Yeah.
White British man.
And you know, of course, like Patrick, I know you're an actor as well, right? So like, you know, being an actor, just like the kinds of roles you get, or the kinds of auditions you get or don't get. You know, early on, I was a lot of assistants. I was like, nurse, you know, like I played so many different technicians, you know, nurse, and now I'm finally graduating. We're like, they want to see you for a doctor now. So I'm like, cool, I'm up to doctor status. I'm working my way up the imaginary health ladder.
Finally graduated med school.
Yeah, exactly. Finally, I put in my time, and then I've graduated. So, but you know, I'll also say that being an actor right now, being a Filipino actor right now, being an Asian actor in North America, it's the best time to ever that in my life that I've experienced being this. Like in the past year, like I've had the most calls for like, we're looking for a Filipino specific person for this story. Like I'm like, wow, that just didn't exist.
It's crazy right now. It's starting to change, which is surreal.
And we would, you know, I remember walking into rooms being like, they're looking for like Asian, and like being like, I think what they mean by Asian is really like Chinese or Japanese, like not because, you know, a lot of people.
You're the wrong kind of Asian.
Yeah, yeah. And like, what do you do with this? Like, it's kind of Latino, kind of Spanish.
Is he Mexican? I don't know.
Is it? Yeah. So, but now it's really cool to be in a place where the kinds of stories that are being told are specific in a different way. And there are kind of more opportunities than there ever were. So it's exciting for now. It's exciting for the future.
Yeah, and we're happy to be on that side of creating the stories that diversify the kinds of actors that we need and want.
Heck yeah. Hell yeah. Thank you for that too. And what we're going to spotlight, we're going to go back to Through the Bamboo too in a second. But what I want to know is the amazing love story, like we kind of got a little bit glimpse into a second ago. So because we're kind of like there with the, you know, the story so far of telling your stories right now, of how, you know, you found yourselves into the arts and also your Filipino-ness. Now you guys, let's kind of continue from there. So you found yourself back into the arts now, Andrea, when we left off of your story, and Byron, you're already in there because you had amazing parents. And, but then also, from kind of what you just said, as well a second ago, though, you're like the one representative, and you know, I'm curious how you maintained, because like you're saying, man, when you're just kind of like the lone Filipino, you know what I'm saying? How did you maintain when they're only coming to white, you know, looking for white actors or this and the third, or just stereotypes? How did y'all meet, and then arts coming together with you guys with all of that?
Maybe talk about your arts, how you got to
theater
and Filipino theater.
Yeah, while I was in university, we were encouraged to write. There was you know, I never thought of myself as a writer. They were like, oh, write something. And my playwriting professor at the time was like, hey, I'm actually doing a workshop for a Filipino theater company here in Toronto. And I'm like, there's a Filipino theater company in Toronto? So I went to this meeting and I met 3 very influential women who have gone on to be leaders in our community, right? Both creators, directors, running theater, like big regional theater companies. And I got connected to my community that way, through that like one meeting. Shortly, like around that time that I was in school, the first, or I don't know if it's the first, but it's the first, no, I shouldn't say it's the first, a Toronto-based Asian Canadian theater company named Fujian came into existence. That was all about promoting Asian Canadian stories and helping develop artists. So I got involved with that group for a while. There's the Filipino theater company here was Carlos Bulasan Theater, which was initially created as an activist theater out of, you know, people who fled the Marcos dictatorship and martial law, and were kind of using theater as activism here. So I found a community in other Filipino Canadian artists here, and it's been, you know, and that was like back in like 2004, 2005, and it's really amazing, incredible to see now where some of us have gone, and what kind of stories and what kind of platforms and what kind of decision-making power some of us have. And it's just like an incredible like blossoming of our community here. And it goes beyond just like theater or TV. There's, you know, the music. We have incredible musicians, incredible like chefs and fashion designers,
Yeah.
And like it's really cool, and we're all a part of this thing of like
This wave too.
of being like these Filipino Canadian artists that are trying to hold, like, honor where we come from, and also like create our new way forward for us that kind of really represents who we are right now in this moment.
Yes.
So the love story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We first met when we were in grade. I was in grade 7.
I was
Wow.
grade.
Yeah. I moved to his neighborhood, and it was like this new subdivision. And our dads, being Filipino dads, went to the local tennis court, and they were like, what did they say? Pare! Oh, pare! And then they started playing, and they now are best friends. And so they're best friends. They've been,
What? Oh my gosh.
And then they became really good friends. And but they were also the kind of friends that only met when they went out. They never like brought their families into this friendship, So we went
They were bros.
school, yeah, but we were in I was in grade 7, he was in grade 8, so we didn't really know each other, right? But we were in band together, and because it was the senior band. And I played the drums.
And I played the clarinet, which was my third choice.
Wait,
There's actually a moment where Andrea actually played, because she was in the band, she played at my convocation.
It's true. I played timpanis.
Yeah. And I was like the valedictorian, and I sang "It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday" a cappella with a
Yes.
friend, really representing that time. But you don't really remember that.
No, I don't. I didn't. Maybe I left, or maybe I was just really into the timpanis.
It was a stirring speech.
Anyway, I don't remember that. But like, fast forward, so we like knew of each other, but we never, we weren't friends, and we didn't, but we knew of each other. And every once in a while, as I grew up, my dad would be like, Manny's son, he's an actor now, and I was like, great, okay, cool. I don't know this person. Like, I met him when I was 12. And then he was like, oh, Manny's son, he's I don't know, I think he's writing something. I was like, oh, that's cool, like, that's nice. Okay. And then like that, that's how much sort of we kept in touch with each other. It was through our dads, and this sort of every once in a while dropping that their friend's son did something, or their friend's daughter did something. And then I just gotten back from South Africa, and I tore my ACL in my left knee. And while I was there, I was a dancer, and I tore my left ACL, and it was awful and horrible and very sad. And when I got back to Toronto, I was like at home, because I'd been gone for 2 years. I was like, what am I doing with my life? And I had this like moment where I was like, what am I doing? And my brother had a friend of a friend. He was like, oh, there's this film festival here in town, and they're looking for an operations assistant that's a volunteer. And I sent in your name because you're not doing anything. And I was like, cool, thanks. And so I went to this thing, and I was like, oh, wow. Like I had never met artists in Toronto. Like, it just wasn't my scene, right? And so I'd never met any artists. And I met in the film festival, like, people who were working their day job as arts administrators. And what I didn't know at the time was that a lot of those people, if not all, were also artists creating stuff on their own outside of those hours. This I did not know. So this is when GChat just first came out. I'm aging myself with GChat. And I didn't understand the nuance of chat platforms back then. And so this Filipino guy who I worked with, who didn't speak to me at all, but we were all in this like group chat over GChat. He would send like weird things, right? He would send like weird things to everybody, and everybody like, okay, whatever. And so he sent me a private text, and he was like, hey, you an actor? And I was like, yeah, are you? Like, I was just like giving him. But the thing was, he's like, yeah, because I wrote a play. And I was like, yeah, cool, you wrote a play, that's great. And like, but to him, he was like, are you an actor? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I wrote a play. And I was like, great. And so he invited me to audition that I thought was a joke. I thought it was a joke. I honestly thought he was just like pulling my leg. I did not know that he was a playwright on the side. And I literally, I think it was like 10 minutes into this chat, and I was just like, I think he's being serious. I was like, oh no, like what have I done? Like what have I've said yes to the audition. I told him I'm an actor. I told him all this stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll be there. Totally be there. So I showed up. And I showed up thing, to this basically like it was like a cast meeting kind of audition. And I got the part, and it was like the lead of this play that he wrote opposite Byron. And when Byron walked in, I was like, hey, and he was like, hey,
Manny's son.
Yeah, and there was a lot of similarities. Andrea was saying that she just got back from South Africa. I had just moved back home from Chicago, where I lived for a couple of years. So we were both in a place where we're coming back. And so we had this cast meeting. It was quite brief at this coffee shop. And then afterwards, we just talked on for like two and a half hours
after that.
And
we were like, oh.
I love this childhood friends to strangers to lovers in a coffee shop fanfic thing. I'm so here for it.
And so
I love this.
This play that we were both a part of, which we got like really great reviews for our chemistry. Yeah, we got such great reviews, and I was like, oh, because it wasn't fake, like it wasn't acting, and it was really sweet. It was about the love story, and it was very sweet because it was like high school characters, and so it was the actual sort of back and forth of the characters that they end up
cute and sweet.
It was cute and sweet, and we were both like in that phase where we were like, this is cute and sweet.
So our first kiss was in rehearsal.
Oh my god.
What?
Yeah.
And our director was like, yeah, that'll work. I was so embarrassed. I remember I was shaking because I was like, oh god, I actually like him. I was like, oh no, this is awful.
Yeah, and it was that thing where and then you just, it's that thing where you just try to find time. It's like, hey, you wanna grab something to eat after? Or you wanna just trying to find any opportunity to be around each other and talk and just like.
I remember getting so much shit from my friends who like sat in the front row of this like play. Andrew's an actor now. Okay, we're gonna go see your show, and then we had our first kiss, and all my friends, all of them screaming, like laughing.
They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. So that's how we met, and then we've been inseparable ever since, and that was
13 years ago.
13? Yeah,
14. That's probably 14 years ago.
Yeah.
I love this. Yo, Byron, tell me when you saw her, man. You're like, yeah, I'm happy she's my castmate.
It was that thing because we had that thing. So, I know you, I know of you, and it was funny too because around that time there was a couple of other instances where we crossed paths, like fate. Like one was we were living in a condo down here by the lake, and like she had a friend that lived the unit below, so there was a time where she was in the elevator with my mom and my sister for like a split second, and then my sister was like, hey Kuya, there's pretty Filipino girls in the building. That was one. And then another one is we had a mutual friend.
Shout out to Amanda. Thanks
sis.
There we go.
And then the other one was like we have a mutual friend that was having a birthday, and we went out and we just kind of saw each other at this place, and this is like when she was injured, and we just kind of started talking to her a little bit too.
No, we didn't talk at all.
No, I said hello.
Oh.
No, I did.
I thought we did it, and then because you thought I was being like strange for not dancing.
I was like, oh, she looks like she's enjoying the music. Why isn't she dancing? It's because of her knee.
She must be so stuck.
I didn't know about her knee being broken. But anyway, so there's it felt like there was forces trying to put it, the fate universe was trying to push us together. That conversation, that first conversation, I think it really sold it for us. I think I was bold in being like, oh, too bad too bad kind of thing. Too bad this can't happen, or can it? Yeah. So that it happened, and it's been a ride, and it's been an amazing blessing, and sometimes very challenging to also work. Like we have the opportunity to work with each other on a lot of things, and like we said, this was like this play Through the Bamboo was an enormous labor of love for us. that we developed it here in Toronto. There was a time we were living in California, and we did some development with Bindle Stiff Studio.
Yeah, and actually,
in San Francisco.
Someone, Joy
Regulano.
Yeah, Joy. Shout out to Joy Regulano.
She was one of our.
She was one of our OG duendes in the show.
Yeah.
As we were developing it.
Yeah,
so
we did a reading in California.
So it's really cool to be on the show right now to like talk about her and Carolyn and all these interconnectedness that we have, even though we're all so far and have so many different experiences. We have these moments where we can come together and really like sharing something special and it's cool to see all of us kind of flower and grow.
I love it. I was gonna ask you because who's my favorite? Y'all, I know the Ates know my favorite
God.
Toronto Canadian, Phil Canadian. Do y'all know Chavi de Guzman?
I don't know Chavi de Guzman.
We don't.
Okay. Well, he is my quote unquote Lapu Lapu. If I ever can make my Lapu Lapu film story happen, he just has glorious hair. I have a man crush on him. He's the guy. If you can look up Chavi de Guzman on IMDb, he's what show was y'all remember what show he was
100?
on? The 100. He was on the 100.
Oh.
There's a couple shows.
If he's still here, he's probably, and he's acting, he's probably like film TV.
You know Alex Malari? That's his boy. Alex Malari?
I think I know Alex Malari.
Both Phil Canadians. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But okay. I love it. Thank you again for sharing that and your stories in that regard to your upbringing. We're getting close to the end here. So now, we're together. We did Through the Bamboo, which we talked about earlier. Where do you guys see now the next maybe story that you want to tell? Now that Through the Bamboo is out tomorrow, September 7th, to go pick it up. Like what other stories do we have that you guys want to tell and that you guys are doing individually as well?
Well, I mean, apparently I'm doing my grandparents' love story.
Oh yeah, you gotta do that. We need that.
So that's on the docket.
Yeah. And I kind of want to have yours too. What we just heard about the both of you. Oh my gosh, growing the primary school.
Right there.
That's cool. You have two. You have two now.
Nice.
For me, I got a couple of things. Like right now, I'm really excited for the first time. I'm in a TV writer's room and developing a show. I can't say much about it except that it's really fun and funny. And that I'm using all of who I am and culture and family in it.
Yes.
And if in a little bit, I'll be able to share what that is. Also, I had a good fortune a couple of this last year. I'm in a couple of things, acting small parts in a couple of things coming out. One is a movie called The Man from Toronto, starring Kevin Hart and Woody Harrelson. And the other thing is a Netflix movie called Luckiest Girl Alive that's still shooting right now with Mila Kunis. So I have a couple of small things for that. Hopefully I don't get edited out. That's happened before, but both were great experiences. So continuing to create, to write, and to act.
Hell yeah!
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, apart from the story that I will be writing, I have been writing quite a bit. I've been a mom for the past 2 years now, and that has changed my life tremendously. Like we always called Through the Bamboo our art baby. And we literally put on our play, and then I was also the choreographer and the assistant director for the production, and I was 9 months pregnant. I was 8.5 months pregnant, and so we had our art baby, and the art baby went into the world, and then we had our like baby, and then
oh my gosh, you guys had twins.
Yeah. They look nothing alike, but yeah, but they're both so loved.
They're fraternal.
Yeah, exactly. They're both so loved. And so I think what has shifted for me creatively is that like my want to tell story is coming from a different place now that I'm a parent, now that I'm a mother. And I'm grappling with new questions around like balancing being a mother and being a woman. And how do you do both at the same time where both feel like you're doing your best at it, like you're really aligning all the time. And so I think a lot of the work that I've been creating is trying to align and be in alignment with what I want this world to be for my daughter. And so I'm writing like very kind of, I'm trying to write stories of connection. I'm trying to write stories of connection with my lineage. And I'm really starting to, I guess, meet my ancestral lineage and meet my ancestors in an artful way. And that's sort of where my creative practice has taken me. It's really exciting because the writing that I'm doing is really different, and it's, I think, a lot more poetic than it used to be. And I'm very interested in how I can bridge that with something that I want to offer the world. You know, I'm still in that kind of stage of development.
Love it. Okay,
Cool.
awesome. I want to build upon that. I love that. Love that. What was the question I had? I had a question, but then it fell, and then I wanted to bridge that. So with that being said, what are some elements of self-care? Because that's so important to nurture that creativity and vibe going forward, that you would recommend. What do you tell your friends and family and other fellow creatives with what you're doing and maintaining this energy? Because I know for myself, man, I gotta take a pause, and the ladies will tell you, the Ates, I'm always running at 100, but I gotta stop over exerting myself and pull back a little bit, take care of home base, family. What lessons do you have for our audience and that you apply to yourselves?
Yeah. I go out into nature all the time. Like, nature is where I can ground. I hug trees. I literally hug trees. And because we live like in a downtown core, I'm like always on the lookout for a tree to hug. And it's so cute because I just did it. And now my daughter does it too. Like, she just goes and hugs trees, and it's the cutest thing. And like,
I love it.
And I always ask her, you know, what does the tree have a message for you? And then before she can answer, I say, that's between you and the tree. That's just become our little thing. And I think it's really sweet. And it's really important to me to keep connection and ground within nature, because it connects me to my nature and to my wildness. And then also to help nurture that in my daughter. On a sort of larger scale, I think that I've really been thinking a lot about self-love versus self-care and how they intersect, but how they're different. And what I imagine it to be is that self-love is a way of thinking. So it's a mindset, and self-care is the action. So self-love is how you think. So it's like really all about like becoming aware of how you're thinking, how you're perceiving things, and what's going on inwardly. So I'm also a somatic practitioner. I did like a movement-based art therapy work, and I'm a somatic practitioner and a Tamalpa practitioner. And so I also work with clients and help them to creatively express what's going on inside, so that they can not just understand themselves better, but then are able to extend themselves into the world with more ease and joy. And so rooted in that is a lot of like meditation practices. A lot of that is awareness practices, movement-based practices, dance work, and understanding that the body is not just a vessel, but it's how we, it's where our memories lie. Like, I don't know if you've ever been, done something, and then all of a sudden you have like a memory, a flashback, you smell something and you're like, oh, I remember the first time I had that. You know, there are neural pathways that are built in from our senses that go directly to our minds and our memories. So the moment we move our body in a certain way, or the moment that we smell something, we remember something. In that thinking, there's this idea that our mind and our body and our emotions are not just connected, but that they reflect one another. That means a change in one of those bodies means a change in the other two. And so I'm constantly working to align my mind, my body, and my emotions, so that I'm not just grounded within myself and in my own experience, but that then I can be in alignment with other people.
Oof.
Right?
I like to play basketball.
Hey, sometimes the simplest things, right, Byron?
Yeah, I mean, for me too, it's like, as someone, you know, I'm a creative, but I'm also like very like earthbound, right brain kind of person. So like I'm often in front of screens working and doing things. So for me, just to remember to be in my body is important, to get some fresh air and to get out and to move. And for me, I've always, you know, loved basketball and I find it meditative. Yeah, and it's and just fun. And you know, and it's and playing, you know, I have a pickup league that is on hold right now because of COVID. But once we go back, hopefully soon, it's a place where we can kind of like play, and like, you know, as adults we don't play a lot, so we can just, you know, to remember the value of play. And you know, that's also a lesson that our daughter always is reminding me of too, the value and importance of playing. Yeah.
No, I love both of that. Thank you so much for those. Like, I could
Hug trees, play
trees, play
basketball,
basketball.
and like get to know yourself and
for real.
detach the things in your mind that don't serve you, and like rewire the things that do.
Nah, straight up. Like, I need to join a pickup league. I need that was a form of stress relief back in the day. I used to be part of a Filipino league back in the day, but I'm so old, you know, I'm older now, so I need to find something where older cats who won't hurt my back because I'm older now.
Got a lot of that
I can run
in
with,
the
right?
pickup league I'm playing. And like after 2 years of COVID, like it's gonna be rough. We were
Right?
There was even a suggestion that the first game back should be like no running, only walking.
It should just be horse. Let's just play a game of horse.
Season.
You know, if we get through that first day back and there are 0 injuries, I will consider that a success. Because I just imagine all these people who are 2 years older just like trying to go full out. And yeah, we're not that young anymore.
It's like the warm-up time and the suiting up is as long as the playing time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh my god.
All right, Kat, our last question out the gate.
All right. Since we are the nerds of color, our last question we always like to end with is, what are you nerdy about? What could we give you a TED Talk and you could present because you're just so passionate about it?
Oh, I could nerd out about the idea of this alignment and this like movement-based expressive arts.
Yeah, I want to attend that. Like, I'm all about that too, because I need to find center.
Somatic work, yeah, like centering somatic work. I could nerd out, and I mean, I was doing a bunch of helping people with speeches, because I also are helping with communication. It's like it's all about communication, and I can certainly go on top of a mountain and be like, everybody, be more aware. It'll help you and help everyone else.
For sure. Love it.
What about you?
I don't know. I might have to say fantasy basketball strategies. And I'll go on record saying like I'm not the best, but I'm consistently good. So like, you know,
That's something.
Yeah, it's a thing. I can kind of nerd out over statistics and, you know, and trying to create. It's a weird thing.
Do you do fantasy football?
No, I only do basketball because it can get it gets a little too
All
cumbersome. Yeah, I can get really lost in it, which is why I'm choosing that one, because it's something that I could just like get deep in stats and just kind of like, oh right, I have responsibilities, work to do, and a daughter, and you know, need to be present here at home.
I feel that. That's what I brought fantasy football because today I just found out our league today. I got my the last pick and then the first pick, obviously second round, and so we're setting up some of my colleagues my draft right now. So anyway,
nice.
He was looking for tips.
Getting ready. Exactly. I need tips, man. I need to win this. It's a big money league too. I got some money in this.
That sounds stressful to me. That sounds stressful. Big money league. Woo. I don't know.
So,
Oh my gosh.
all right. Before we, and actually, the very last thing is for our audio listeners, how can our fans and your new fans hopefully reach out to you Again, Through the Bamboo, y'all, is out tomorrow. Get it, cop it everywhere. Pick it up September 7th. It drops. Support Byron and Andrea Mapili. Because we want more. I know I want more. I want the TV, I want the anime, I want it all. I want the film. How can our fans reach out to you guys? What are your socials that you don't mind letting them know? And we'll also have it in the description below.
Cool. To learn more about the story and where you can buy it in Canada and in the US, you can check out throughthebamboo.ca. For me, you can follow me on Instagram at Byron Abalos.
And for me, Mindful Abandon on Instagram.
There you go. Salamat po. I will be following. I think I'm already following. If not, I'm going to make sure I'm on all of them because I definitely want to have you guys back. Welcome to our ShoPowSho family. With your new project, Byron, we'd love to chat on more because I'm curious. I have my head tuned into what's going on with certain projects in Hollywood, especially with us representing. So I hope you can come back when you can talk on it. And Andrea as well, with everything you both have going on. You're part of our fam now. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Mahal kita. Salamat. Until the next time we see you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Definitely. Boom. There you go. Byron Abalos and Andrea Mapili, Through the Bamboo, out in stores, y'all. Tomorrow, pick it up. I can't wait to check it out and read it and hear more. And like the stories we heard, Andrea, if you're watching this playback, we need that. We need 2 stories. You owe us 2. And Byron, we can't wait to have, just everything you both are doing. We love you guys. We love y'all. You're welcome anytime. Come on through. Please. So much fun. Kataphorric. What were some of your takeaways from that? Amazing experience?
It was great. It was wonderful to hear a different version of mixed kid problems, of course.
Right? Yeah.
And it was awesome to kind of see how they kind of had this parallel experience because they're from the same area. And then they split and kind of did their own things and then came back together.
Right.
Like, Kat, remember you did that to some of your theater kids?
Oh yeah, I totally matchmake 2 of my theater kids, but like I cast them as romantic leads in Much Ado About Nothing for Benedict and Benvolio. I hope they listen to this. And because I was like, I bet they'd be cute. I'm gonna matchmake a little bit, and they totally got engaged like years later. But they started dating. They dated throughout college, and they just got engaged. And I was like, I did that, me.
Go ahead, Kat. I love it.
Love. I love love. That's
I love
that's
love.
all I could think of.
All right, Tina, what about you?
Oh my god, so many. Like I loved their. God, they were describing their book, and they were just like, it's
us, yo.
Folklore.
Did you feel it was like us though, like us with what we do with ShoPowSho? Yeah.
And their focus on storytelling, and I'm like, I'm sweating. I'm like, yeah. Oh, I'm feeling this. And just how they made it woman-centered. I'm like, how Filipino is that? The matriarchy is strong.
Yes.
And their focus on making sure that they're telling the story right and having it be our story. Oh my God. And just love everything. Love everything. Love conquers all, but love is the living day to day. Romance is the longing.
Oh yes, that nugget. You're gonna get a t-shirt going if she doesn't set it up right.
I'm like, that's about to be ShoPow official merch.
Right.
We'll put your names on the back. But I need romance is longing on a t-shirt. That would just make my poor Libra heart burst. And yeah, so I'm just 10 and 10. I had a great time.
Yeah. Carolyn Faye, shout out to our everyone's favorite Lola. Lola. Yes. Oh man, just so many amazing nuggets. Again, Byron and Andrea, if you see this playback, man, thank you for sharing that. Again, just more stories that need to be told, inspiring stories of love and pursuit of dreams and giving back to the next generation, being the embodiment and was it the grandfather Andrew's grandfather, like with the music thing, like, man, just it's in the genes, y'all. And just doing you, man, and just I love it. And then having love intermixed with, man, just so good. So good.
Oh man, just what a wonderful, just tumble down a hill to grow our ShoPowSho snowball. That's how I feel. I feel like we're ShoPowSho is a snowball, and we just tumbled down the Andrea and Byron hill, and we're like 3 times larger.
I love that. So good.
It's late
yeah, and it's late at night, y'all. We're recording this on a different time than we normally record. But again, because they have young ones, I have a young one, and you got to arrange certain schedules and stuff. So we really thank you both, Byron and Andrew, if you're seeing this playback, for arranging your schedule to come on and share with us. This was an amazing one. Let's get up out of here because I know everyone's tired as well, but we're so fulfilled by that amazing energy that y'all brought. Kat, how can they reach out to you?
All right, I am Kataphorric on Twitch. Well, no, Twitter. I'm tired. It's late. I'm sorry. I'm on stuff. Just find me. It's cool.
It's also in the description below, y'all. If y'all don't notice, I also put all of us in the description below when we are too tired like this.
We're all
Kataphorric.
Below.
Yes.
Follow us. Kataphorric, Viva Valentina, Kuya P, the legend Kuya P. Temple Far East.
Yes.
Nerds of Color, ShoPowSho, NRW, Nudist Wednesday, all of that.
Just find us. Yes.
Just find us. Thank you again. Salam apo to everybody that shows and loves us and gives us, all the amazing feedback. We really appreciate y'all. This is for the people, for the culture. Mahakita all the time. Mahakita. Salamat.
Mahakita din.
Boom, boom. Love y'all.
This is Andrea Mapili.
And Byron Abalos.
And we'll be appearing on the ShoPowSho.
We are the authors and playwrights behind the play Through the Bamboo.
Which is now available in print.
Yes. We hope you join us. Check us out. Follow us. Check out Through the Bamboo at throughthebamboo.ca. Follow me at Byron Abalos on Instagram and
mindfulabandon.com. Hi, I'm Andrea Mapili, and this is
Byron Abalos.
And we're the playwrights of Through the Bamboo. I'm Filipino, and being Filipino means community to me. It means ancestry and lineage of where I'm from, and all of those that came before me, and all of those that will come after me. And it is ever changing. So my Filipino-ness is everything that came before. It's a way to feel at home, but it's also learning more and more and changing with the more I learn about our history, pre-colonial, colonial history, and with all of the Filipino people living in the diaspora that I know now, and how that affects me and how that's changing me. So that's what being Filipino is. It's the ever-changing identity that is rooted in a rich, vast, beautiful culture.
For me, it's belonging. It's knowing you come from a place that is home and also as a part of the diaspora that also feels somewhat foreign. It's family parties that are loud. It's piles of food and stealing lumpia before you're supposed to eat. It's playing sports with friends and cousins and hanging out with cousins more than friends sometimes. And it's joy, it's music, it's laughter, it's love. It's life. It's a part of who we are, and it's a part of what we're passing on to the next generation as well.